What's up, everybody? Welcome to Coshun Cast. Craig Coshun, James Stewart, the premier, now part-time host of our shows, the Bucks and the Brewers. I'm just when I say that, you just haven't shown up for work much lately. But
it's been a while.
How are you with all your time off?
I'm enjoying all the family time.
Well, that's good, because if we didn't do this podcast, I don't think we'd ever see each other ever.
Right.
Again.
That's all this is. It's just trying to hang out.
It is. So you're just going to be the longtime producer of the show now,
okay?
But not current. So that's
right.
It's almost like you're a Hall of Fame candidate already.
I'm okay with that. If you want to call me a Hall of Fame producer, I'm okay with that. It's your words, not mine. I mean, I'm good with that.
Okay, good. How was Thanksgiving, my man?
It was good. Went to the mother-in-law's, had a lot of food, spent some time with family. Nice, relaxing day. And had some okay football during the day.
Yeah, and during the day was okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
Whoever played, they were close.
The Lions were on. That happened, and I ate. How about you?
We had 25 people over. We have a big tradition to have both sides of the family and friends or whoever can make it. And so it was a big gathering. It was fun. I call it 12 to 12 wine, nice. 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. You just, but you having plenty to eat. So, it all soaks in nicely. But good time, good social, great food. My wife and her mom do most of the cooking. And we've been it's a big family tradition for us to have at our house. So we're real blessed and happy, and it was another good time. So
you said family and friends and whoever could make it.
Yeah, but you had plans. Clearly, you had plans.
Okay. All right. Yes. Well, I'm just putting it out there.
I subtly asked you on the last show what you were doing for Thanksgiving, and you said, "Well, I'm going to eat and eat and eat." I'm going to my mother-in-law's, and so I'm like, all right, so he doesn't need an invite, man. He's got plans.
Well, I did say eat more than once, so I mean, just in the future.
All right. Well, we'll put you on the 2022 schedule. All right.
Yeah, I'm trying to make the top 25.
All right, let's talk a little Bucks basketball. Man, what a game on Wednesday night. The Bucks in Charlotte, 127-125. That was a regulation score, folks. Clearly, not even arguably, clearly the best and most entertaining game of the year. Giannis with basically the game winner with 2 seconds to go to break the tie, James. And I guess we could dissect this in a couple of different ways. For us in the business, we always start at the end and work our way back.
Right.
But the end with Giannis, I mean, he's got to be the guy with the ball in his hands if the game is tied and you have basically last possession of the game, because he can find the shot within a foot of the rim. Right. So to me, it worked out beyond perfectly for them.
And that's kind of that's definitely where you want him shooting that last shot. But I have to say that I was pretty confused by the formation that they lined up in when
the wind-up toy formation.
Yeah, exactly, with Giannis backcourt. And once I saw him like sprinting forward, it was like, this is basically going to be a handoff, and he's just going to run through the line and get to the touchdown and lay it up. Like it was just, I haven't seen that in the NBA before, which was pretty funny to watch, but. It was also like, how else would you want Giannis with the ball? You basically put him in a fast break, which is his fast break Euro step is second to none. So in a half court setting, you set that up basically that he was already running at full speed, and all he had to do was beat one guy. It was almost like they didn't even react to it because it was just, what is going on?
It reminded me of part of the in-game entertainment that we've seen for years and years with the Bucks at home games, where they bring out 10 inflatable pins and put Bango in a slingshot, basically. Yeah. It reminded me very much of that. I said the wind-up toy, the slingshot, it's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
And I was very curious to see how they were going to run that final play, because to me, it somehow, some way, they just had to make it as easy as possible to get the ball to Giannis, and then he goes to work. If nothing else, he draws the foul,
Right.
and he can go to the free throw line, if nothing else. But then when he lined up on the other side of half court and just started running as soon as that ball was put in play, I was like, this is pretty ingenious here.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be, I mean, that was a big win right there. They've got back-to-back. They're on the road tonight against Toronto. So you travel, you go over the border, you go through customs, you take the long bus ride into downtown Toronto, and then you got to play a team that hasn't played in a couple of days either, so they're well rested. But okay, so now we've looked at that Giannis play, kind of dissected it. That's option one to win the game for the Bucks if it's tied.
Right.
I think he's got his name all over if it's tied. If it's not tied and you need a shot, I think Chris Middleton's still your guy.
For sure. I wonder too, like, I wonder if the other team has that mindset, because we've heard and talked about kind of for the last year how Middleton is the closer. Last game winning situation we saw, Middleton was the closer, which that game was tied, right? The Miami game.
Yeah.
So my first thought was Middleton in an ISO, you give him 7 seconds, like that's pretty good time to work with. But it is kind of, now that you say that, it makes total sense that you put your superstar in the spot where he can win the game. And that exact instance is perfect for if he misses, it doesn't matter. You go in overtime, you're fine. But to have those two options, and obviously Giannis is going to score a 2-point basket as opposed to Chris potentially scoring a 3-point basket, but still having the two options and just the way that Giannis lined up was so confusing. But Middleton 100%, like, he is if you need a shot, if you know that this is going to be a jump shot, a fadeaway or whatever, Middleton is the guy, I think. And I guess depending on where you are in the season, early in the season, you kind of let your superstar get that shot and hopefully build some confidence.
Well, we'll say this, Novak and I were talking about this during the game. The development of Giannis's turnaround jumper this season, it's pretty Kobe-like. It's successful, and he's turning left or right, and these shots are starting to fall now. I mean, those are like game-winning shots if you need it too. I mean, we've seen it from Middleton 100 times.
Well, he also hit one of those way back when against the Knicks.
Huh?
Yeah. Remember way back when he hit one of those against the Knicks?
Yeah.
But
it was way back when.
Yeah, it was way back when.
But, I mean, you look at that and you think, well, that was a lucky shot. But now it's like you can go to him for that now.
Yeah. And just all of the kind of jump hooks in near the free throw in the lane, just he's really opened up his game in that aspect of, like, we know that his best move is to play bully ball, but you just can't do that for 35 minutes every single night. You know what I mean? So there's got to be so there's got to be some shots that he can get to avoid contact, and the fadeaway, specifically at the baseline, is the one that I feel like he's been working on the most. And that one, I feel like he's swishing that one.
Yeah,
like it's not just rattling in. It looks like a shot that he knows how to shoot.
By the way, I thought he got beat up several times yesterday, and I'm not a big complainer of refereeing. I usually don't go down that avenue, but I thought the officiating in the game yesterday was the poorest I've seen all season. It wasn't even to the point of being inconsistent. It was just almost speculative. The decision making wasn't there. And those are, as it goes along, those are when I fear, guys like Giannis can get hurt.
Right.
Guys like Grayson Allen, took Hayward's elbow, above the neck into the chin, and he gets called for a foul. I mean, if they don't get together and look at that after the Bucks complain, it's like, what is going on.
Right.
And then the end result is a flagrant one. So it's a technical on Hayward. So the Bucks shoot a free throw, yet he goes to the line and shoots foul shots, like
Right.
shooting foul shots. It's like that I've
Either
never
you
seen
did something
that.
wrong or you didn't. Like you can't.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways.
Well, and we've talked about this a couple times. Just it feels like the restricted area doesn't matter anymore. Like what should have been an and one on Giannis turns into an offensive foul. And now if you want to say that he swung the elbow, fine, but that's not what was called. No. What was called was basically a charge. Like they didn't call him for swinging the elbow; they called him for an offensive foul, not the. And it was just I don't specifically too with him being a superstar, and in the timing of that call, you're just thinking to yourself, what is going on here? Like,
it was very bizarre.
Does this line not matter? From my understanding, if you're in there, you've already lost. Like you're getting the foul.
Yeah. Yeah, it was there were too many circumstances like that, and again, I really don't like to crush officiating.
Yeah.
You know, I mean these guys have a job to do and whatnot, and I think with technology and stuff, it's almost gone too far.
Yeah.
So nobody really knows what call they're supposed to make anymore. If something's going to be backed up on a replay, or someone else is going to make a final decision. So
yeah, and they change year to year. Obviously, you know, we're not the only team that has had some or any difficulty transitioning to what, you know, the new rules are and how they're changing for shooters and, you know, whatever.
Okay, so here's the thing. The Bucks have won 8 straight. Most of that has been against poor competition. Let's face it. I mean, you're just going to hit stretches in the season that way. It's ramped up a little bit now where you had that. I mean, the Hornets, you know, are playing really well. They were 13-10 coming in.
Yeah.
They've got some incredible shooters offensively. So that was a good test to pass and win. Then you got the road trip to Toronto. Toronto's not the same team. I get it. Then the Heat are coming in Saturday, a little bit banged up and a little bit confused. Like they lost to the Cavs last night at home. They got crushed. So it's an interesting little stretch of this schedule. I thought it was going to be a little more competitive, but this, you know, the Bucks are playing really well right now, James. And I think, you know, with the big three, you know, we were exchanging notes and whatnot. And I loved your point, you know, with the big three with Drew, Chris, and Giannis, they're 10-0 when they start.
Right. Yeah. And that's it. It kind of, if anyone was, you know, a week and a half ago, before Chris came back, and, you know, it was like the sky was falling. They lost 3 in a row, 4 in a row, whatever it was. And it was just like, you could tell that once Chris came back, their offense stabilized. And if you look at the box scores, it's not even necessarily like his output. It's not the fact that he's scoring as much as he's not scoring 20 a game or whatever, you know, it's the fact that he has to be respected on the floor now. Like Giannis has said it so many times, and I'm assuming kind of the same thing whenever like Brook comes back. Giannis is saying these things for a reason, because it makes the game easier for him. He doesn't want to guard fives. He wants to be able to float. So obviously Brook coming back or whatever would help. He said it when Chris was out. You know, it feels like there's 4 guys looking at me and waiting for me to make a play. Like adding Chris back, Drew back, it just we forget, because I wouldn't necessarily call them like a big three, but they operate and they are a big three on this team. Like as far as like the way that the team operates, it was needed. They needed them back. And you see when they have them back, like it just, everything is calmed down. Yes, it's been the stretch of, you know, subpar teams, but the wins look good. You know what I mean? Like the offense looks better. They're not just squeaking out these wins and they just happen to be playing bad teams. It feels like everything is trending upward. You know what I mean?
Well, and this is, you know, I guess when I was bringing up the schedule part too, I mean, you have to have an opportunity to gel together. And yes, they played last year together, but it's different than when you have your break and you come back and then you've got guys in and out of the lineup and stuff like that. But I think you're right about the fact that they're not the classic big three, because each of them aren't scoring 20 or 30 points every single night.
Right.
And I don't think that's necessary for this team to win. They're three different players. There's no question about that. But I guess the productivity that they develop together is an absolute necessity for this team to win another title. I mean,
well, as far like
court together, I don't see this team winning another title.
Yeah, I mean, of all the big threes, the Bucks three makes the most sense.
Yeah,
none of these guys do the same thing. They're all here for a different reason. So, like, when their big three is operating, it's operating as like three very good players on a team. You know what I mean? Like, filling specific roles. Whereas you had, like, historically your big threes, like even LeBron, Wade, Bosh, like LeBron and Wade are basically the same thing. Like, obviously LeBron is bigger, more physical, but they play the same way.
Yeah.
Giannis and Chris don't play the same way. Chris and Drew don't play the same way. You know, like, this is the reason it works is because the pieces actually fit. We didn't have to make them fit.
Yeah, and you're right. And you know, you go back to, I mean, why did they win the championship?
Right.
Every team that competes for a championship for X number of years that can't win it needs to find that final piece.
Right.
And Drew is the final piece.
Well, every time the league puts a big three together, even like the Lakers this year, how are LeBron and Westbrook going to share the ball? That was never a question. It was never like, how's Drew going to fit in? He's going to be a point guard. He's going to play good defense. He's going to distribute the ball. How's Chris going to fit in? He's going to be the shooter, playmaker. Like, you know what I mean? There's no question there.
And by the way, they're together for a number of years together, which is also rare. And that's why I'll still say they're a big three.
Yeah.
Because they're together. They're not assembled differently each year.
Right.
Like we're seeing on so many other teams here right now. So, and they're healthy enough to be together and young enough to be together. So that's for sure a key. Now, speaking of final pieces to the puzzle, the Bucks surprised everybody in the league and signed DeMarcus Cousins, who made his debut last night. A rather successful debut. I don't know if fitting him in had anything to do with falling behind by 18, a little, miscontinuity or whatever that maybe we saw throughout the game. I really don't know if that was the case, because sometimes it is. But you got this big fella coming in here who this town on talk radio for years and years and years clamored to get him in here.
Oh, yeah.
Thought he'd be a good fit. And now he's here. And I thought his debut was good. He played more minutes than I thought he was going to. It was his first game since last year. And he was his efficiency rating was a +9 when he was on the court. And he played 14 minutes. So I thought overall, Boogie can fit in pretty nicely with this team.
And you know what I like the most about it? One of the first couple plays when he was in, Giannis had the ball at the top of the key, spun into the lane, and it looked like he was looking for Boogie. Like, Boogie's on the floor, get him a shot. And he got him what would have been a pretty good shot, but in surprising fashion, he swings it over to the corner, over to Grayson, and Grayson hits the three. And it was just like that moment you were just like, okay, I can see that, like, yes, it was only one play, but it was like the perfect first play to say, I'm in, I'm going to do what the team needs me to do. You know, if Grayson's open and I'm open, this is a better shot, swing the ball movement. Like, it was like that moment for me was just like, okay, I feel much better about this. Cause I feel like I was, not that I thought that he was done, but I was a skeptic of it. Cause I would just always feel like when a guy is at that kind of, or was at that level at one point, and then the last 4 years has been on 4 teams, all ended in injury. And you're just like, where's his mind at? Especially coming in when we're down. Like, that first quarter was kind of like, here we go again. One of these young teams come out here just hot. You know, you're looking for a spark. And he came in, and got a couple rebounds. I think he hit a 3, I'm pretty sure, which, it's just like, okay, it fits. It fits as long as like the mindset is right. And I think that the team leadership with Giannis is good enough that, if he, for whatever reason, weren't to fit in, they would just move on.
Well, I think the assist really stood out more than anything else all night long was just saying, you know what, I'm a pretty good passing big man,
right?
And he is. His vision's good. His common sense is good, and when you're that successful in this league and in pro sports, those instincts don't go away. Your physical ability maybe to score in the fashion you were used to when you were in your prime starts to decline, but I don't think your instincts go away at all. And I think that's part of why the Bucks thought he'd work in nicely with this team right now. And clearly they also need some size to,
definitely,
to clog the middle or to spread things out a little bit. Get rid of some of the stuff that's going on, get rid of some of the bigs that have been in the middle, still, hacking on Giannis and whatnot. We don't know what's going on with Brook Lopez. That still remains a mystery with his back. And obviously it's serious enough that the Bucks went out and got Cousins. So, I say good fit. There's no risk to it. He's done. No. It's a non-guaranteed contract. So, but I'll tell you right now, I'd be shocked if he won on this team the rest of the year. If he plays 14 minutes and gets what he got last night, and guess what, James, you can give Giannis a little bit of rest, or maybe if he's banged up, you're not thinking too badly about giving him a night off, and let Boogie go have his old-fashioned game down low, right?
Right. And if whenever Brook does eventually come back, you can go Brook, Giannis, and Bobby Portis Cousins as basically a line shift. Like that's not a bad second unit to have.
Yeah. And I think the thing with Brook too is whenever he's cleared to play, it's been almost 2 months since he hasn't played competitive basketball. So it's going to be a process to get him back in there. And there's no timetable for that either. So, I guess this point moving forward, you just have to assume when he gets back, but it's not going to be anytime soon here. And I think Cousins is, going to be a really good fit. And
if he plays the way that kind of we saw last night, there's no rush. Like I don't even without Cousins, I don't think there was no Cousins, no Brook. There was no really like worry that this team wasn't going to be in the top 3. So to me, like Cousins is kind of just icing on the cake, make it stay in the top 3 and let Brook rest. Like whenever he gets back, he gets back.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it was an excellent move. And so we'll see where they go from here, but I'm thinking pretty positive here at this point. That's for sure. So
yeah.
All right. So the Bucks taking care of business. They've won 8 straight, going to Toronto, coming back and hosting Miami on Saturday. So there'll be some things for us to talk about with them, obviously next week as well.
PJ Tucker in town for the first time.
Who is?
PJ Tucker in town.
Saturday.
Yeah, so he should get his ring and all that. That should be fun.
Little mini ring ceremony.
Yeah.
That means Pat Paschke's coming back to the arena.
For sure. And I'm sure that the fans love PJ, so I'm sure that it'll be loud and good time.
Okay. All right. So wait, now you brought up a good subject, so maybe we're not done talking about Bucks. So that's another reason, don't you think, that DeMarcus Cousins comes in here as well? He's kind of a bulldog. Dog.
Oh yeah. And you saw him a couple times out there with Giannis last night too. So
yeah,
it'll be not that him and Bobby are going to go beat anyone up, but you do have a little more fire and attitude to surround Giannis with, maybe a little bit more protection.
There's a lot of headbands on the court at one time. I noticed last night.
Yeah.
You got Bobby, Drew, Boogie. Who else wears one? I think that's it.
Yeah, that might be it.
Robinson won. He's not with the team anymore. All right, let's talk. Okay, the Packers are off. They have a bye week. That means we don't have to see Aaron Rodgers' toe.
Yeah.
We don't have to. I don't know what he's considering with that surgery or not. I mean, I really can't figure all that out at this point.
Everything that I've heard is basically if he has the surgery, he'll still be ready to be back the following week anyway. So it's basically
I would have had it the day after the game if I were to have to get the bye week, but my toes are looking pretty good. You want to see my toes?
No, I'm actually.
You're good. AJ Dillon, though, I mean, if you talk about, a really good story here over the last several weeks for the Packers going into this bye week, a guy that definitely deserves a little bit of a break right now. This guy's carried the ball. He's caught the ball. He's picked up big first downs, big touchdowns. It's something, man. They've got a knack for drafting running backs in the last several years. That's for sure.
Yeah. When I remember that draft, that was the Jordan Love draft. And the Jordan Love pick didn't necessarily shock me, but I definitely thought to myself, why? Like, we had Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones at the time. And it's just like, why are you drafting a third running back? Like, what is the purpose of this pick? Obviously now, Gutekunst is smarter than me because it's paying off, especially with Jones down. He's a different back. He's a different kind of back. He's your power back.
Yeah.
Which Jones isn't. But it feels like they've kind of figured that out in the last couple of weeks. And especially he seems to be able to catch the ball as well. So this is exactly what Aaron needs. Whenever Devontae's doubled or they need a yard, this is the guy.
Well, I think strategically, and I'm not a GM in league, but I think what we're seeing, under Gutekunst, is you can draft running backs and let's face it, as history shows us, they probably have the shortest lifespan position wise in the NFL. And whether some of those guys can handle it or not, they're just not going to get paid after a while.
Right.
Actually, after a short term, they're just not many guys are getting contracts. Aaron Jones got a really nice contract. That actually surprised me a little bit, but you mentioned Williams. He's no longer on the team. So you give Dillon that year to develop. And that's what they've been doing. And then when they need to be thrown in the fire, I think throwing them in the fire, that's like the birthing or the christening that they need to say, go out and do it, man. You're ready to go and let it fly, man. You're young, you're athletic, you can do a lot of things here. And I think it also helps that Rodgers is still quarterbacking this team.
Well, yeah, definitely.
But still, you have to have the ability to perform the way these guys are, and they're doing it, when called upon at a really high level right now.
Yeah. Speaking of Rodgers, I don't know if you've seen over the last, basically since the Rams game, I've seen a lot of reemergence of Rodgers for MVP and some new LaFleur for Coach of the Year. And can you just think about where that started as to where it is now? The fact that we're even talking about potentially a back-to-back MVP for Rodgers and Coach of the Year for LaFleur when the season ended last year with those two being on two separate pages, basically throwing each other under the bus, not talking for the entire offseason. And now we're talking about potentially Coach of the Year and MVP. If you're Rodgers now, if that happens, let's say that he wins MVP and LaFleur wins Coach of the Year, how do you leave?
Oh, I could tell you 10 ways he could leave.
I mean, but realistically, if you leave, you're being spiteful, right? You
quit being sentimental.
Yeah, exactly. But if you leave, you're being you're not thinking, because this would obviously be the best situation to win in. if you just won MVP and your coach is coach of the year, clearly things are going well. Like,
well, I mean, clearly though, he knew that when this whole I don't want to play here anymore reports came out, or whatever was going on last summer. Clearly, he knows this is the best place for him to be.
Right, obviously,
he can't afford at his age to sit out and force a trade. You know, he's wiser than he thinks, probably, and maybe what we think. But everybody can play stupid, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's clearly working out nicely. You know, it's interesting you bring up MVP, because I think over the last several weeks, you know, with him being a little bit banged up and whatnot, I don't think the MVP numbers for him are that. I think that, you know, the whole COVID testing positive, you know, keeping him out of that game and just rebounding and out of the toe, whatever. I don't know if how serious an MVP candidate he'll be. I mean, but I will say this, in lieu of all that, I think you bring up a really good point that, you know, LaFleur should be a serious candidate for coach of the year, because we're now seeing a guy that's, you know, minus Aaron Rodgers 100%, or minus Aaron Rodgers in a game, that he is making some decisions and some moves and tactically putting this team in a position, you know, to do some great things, not just some good things.
Well, that, and obviously you take into account all the injuries. I mean, the defense,
it's unbelievable.
Seems to get hurt every week.
Yeah.
You know, on offense, you've missed Rodgers for a game, you missed Jones for a game, you missed Adams for a game, you missed Lazard for that same game.
Yeah.
You lost Tunyon for the year. You're on your third left tackle. Like, you know what? There are so many moving parts. And obviously, you know, Gutekunst gets some credit for that too, for having the depth. But there's just so many moving parts, and to kind of keep it alive, obviously. And we've seen like different game plans. You know, the Kansas City game obviously was tough because Jordan Love's first start, but they were in it for a good portion of it. Like, there's some good coaching going on.
What he did didn't prevent the team from winning.
Right.
I mean, we know why the team lost that game. I mean, on a given day, if you put your team in a position to score 3 or 7 and you can't even get to 3 when you should multiple times,
right?
You know, what was the final score of that one? 13-7.
Yeah, I think so.
So I mean, but you're right. And here's the other point I'll make. With all the injuries you bring up, this team can. You know, we're not at practice, but you can imagine what practice is like.
Right.
It must be like barely going through the motions with wondering who's going to fill what spot, and it becomes more of a tactician, and the work that we're doing together in the film room or whatever, in game planning. And there's an art and a gift of bringing that together with such a large group of guys that results in not just the head coach, but his coaching staff as well. And this seems to be a pretty good fit all the way around. That's for sure.
The other thing, like, I feel like someone like, you know, Rasul Douglas, who had the pick six, like, we've seen since he got here, he ended the Cardinals game, pick six in this game. Like, they're going to be pretty set up when, like, Jair Alexander comes back, and Douglas gets to now move to the third or fourth guy. Like, this team, the defense is and Zadarius Smith isn't even out there. Like, they're getting to the quarterback still. So it's going to be fun to watch as they get more and more healthy. And I mean, if they went out or at least get the, you know, the number 1 seed, coach of the year is probably going to happen. Yeah,
I think so too. All right, so they're off this week, and then we got the Bears on Sunday Night Football, I think, coming out of that. I should have the Packers schedule in front of me, but That's okay. Little baseball talk before we wrap things up.
Yeah.
The Brewers, just before the Major League Baseball lockout, like minutes before, make a pretty significant trade with the Red Sox, sending Jackie Bradley Jr. and a couple of their top young prospects to Boston for Hunter Renfroe, who we're not all that familiar with here,
Right.
but first glance at his stats and you love what you see, and then further into the deep dive of controllability,
Yeah.
David Stearns pulls it off again. Let me just read these off to you. Renfroe last year, 31 home runs, 96 RBIs, power hitting, right-handed hitter, made $3.1 million last year, and the team has control over him for 2 more years. So, I mean,
Nice.
are you kidding me? All of a sudden, that crowded, almost offensively anemic offense, especially with the loss of Garcia
Yeah.
due to free agency, is looking much, much better at this point. And he was also a Gold Glove finalist, has a
Nice.
cannon for an arm out there in right field. So there you go. That was right before the lockout. I think just looking at this every year, James, I tell people they always want to, during baseball offseason, they want to talk a little hot stove league. What do you think the Brewers are going to do? Who do you think they're going to get? What move are they going to make? Who are they going to sign? And it's so incredibly difficult to predict that based on how David Stearns and Matt Arnold and everybody works, because it's very mysterious to the rest of us. They do a lot of things really quietly in a really enormous way when it comes to an announcement like this. You're like, how did they pull off sending Jackie Bradley Jr. back to Boston?
Right.
Financially, he was going to, suck a good portion of the life out of them for 2 more years. And obviously sending 2 young prospects certainly helped, but to get Renfroe in return is, to me, it's like an off the charts trade.
Yeah. It feels like a win.
Big time.
Your outfield looks better. I mean, well, assuming that Garcia is not there. Like, obviously the numbers are kind of the same, but yes, younger, team control, and like now Taylor doesn't necessarily have to start, day one. You got a quality backup. I'm like shocked by the moves that they make, specifically because, like you said, they do it all so quietly.
Yeah.
And it just like it like I saw the email literally moments before I saw the email of the lockout, and you're just like, again, in typical fashion, just sneak this in, boom, like,
yeah.
And it'll whenever they do get back, it'll be good. It'll be fun.
We got this trade, but he can't play.
Right. Before we decided to shut everything down, we did this.
Here's some snacks, but you can't eat them. It's easy to laugh at this, but the sad part is the reality of this Major League Baseball lockout now, and it was inevitable. We all saw it coming.
Yeah.
The owners and the players are at a standstill and aren't taking a step forward, aren't negotiating now, and that's probably going to be on a hiatus for a while as we look at this being the first few days of December, and they're already saying, well, if we start getting serious by the 1st of February and get something done in early February, then everybody can report to spring training on schedule by mid-February when they're all supposed to report. But what do you do the whole month of December, the whole month of January, when you can't make any moves? Players can't rehab where they should be. They're locked out of all the facilities right now. It's not a good thing. And I think the worst part of it is, fans were already out because of the pandemic, and they slowly came back last year. They want to see their Milwaukee Brewers play baseball. They've been to the playoffs 4 straight years. This is the easiest statement in the world, but this is not a time to turn off fans, and they're already pissed off. I mean,
Right.
well, my social media, everybody's social media is like, I'm done. I'm sick of this. I can't take this. I can't relate to this.
Yeah.
And this is a hard business to decisions and whatnot for fans to have overcome this, you know?
I wonder too, like, I wonder what the fan sentiment is going to be, whether it's going to lean toward the owners or lean toward the players. I don't remember who said it, but it was a basketball player. But he said something to the effect of, as like, I think it might have been Charles Barkley, as professional athletes, like, they're the luckiest people in the world during this pandemic because they didn't lose any money. Like, they may have lost a couple game checks, but ultimately, like, they went back to their contracts full and everything. So, like, even the lack of fans didn't necessarily financially affect them.
Right.
But it did affect the owners, obviously.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where, like, people fall on this, because, like, this might be the one time where, like, as the fan, you can look and be like, the owners need to get what, recoup what they lost.
Well, there certainly is that. I mean, there's no doubt. I think that's part of it for sure. It's my understanding that there are enough owners. I think if there were 2 or 3 owners that were on their own island over this in a negative way, that maybe we wouldn't have the lockout. But there are enough owners. You get into 6, 7, 8 owners out of 30 teams that are going to put their foot down and say, we need to protect our financial ability to succeed and what we're entitled to here. And I get that. But that's one of the main reasons why it has stopped now. And then the debate on the players' side is they feel over the last 4 or 5 years that a lot of their top flight free agents have been almost blackballed until the very start of a baseball season if they were a free agent and were forced to take lower deals. And it's hard not to look at things from that perspective as well. And it's going to be, I have no solutions. I mean, I don't think anybody does. If we did, we'd figure it out
right.
in this case. And that's why it's hard to talk about and hard to explain. It has nothing to do with, do we want to have a universal DH or speed up the game or anything like that? It's salary caps, how much money teams are spending, why teams are tanking, why that's acceptable, all those things. And, a lot of it isn't fair to fans either. I mean, you're in a pro sports baseball market and your team has decided we're just going to lose.
Right.
It's hard to imagine, like, why and how are you making money then?
Well, and you also, with baseball and I guess basketball too, with it being guaranteed contracts, every move like has a lasting impact. You can't get out of any of these players. And as a player, that's like you're never giving that up, right? But as an owner, that changes so many other things because you have to take into account that, like, if I do make this move, we're tied to it for a very long time unless I can move it. And so it is very complicated. And as a layman fan, it's easy to think like, what are they arguing over, millions? Like, what are we talking about here? But when you actually break down the business aspect of it, it's very intricate and a lot of moving parts that I could never understand. So I kind of just sit back and watch and hope for the best because I don't know where I fall on it. Like,
well, and as you say, is it millions? In reality, it's billions, and in reality, for long-term contracts, it's trillions. So it is significant beyond a lot of our comprehension. That's for sure. But as fans of this game and people like us who work in it, obviously we want things to speed up and get going and have no delay whatsoever.
I just want to work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want anything to interrupt anybody's flow, whether you're a fan or you're working in this business. So, all right, that's going to do it for baseball talk and Bucks and Packers and stuff. I want to give a quick shout out to couple of Division III state football teams. Congrats on a great season to UW lacrosse football team. They went deep in the playoffs, had a great year. My son's good buddies with a lot of the guys on the team, roommates and stuff, and I know it meant a lot to them. They lost to last year's defending champ in the second round, but you guys had a great year. And UW Whitewater, my alma mater, you're going to the quarterfinals. They're rolling. I hope things keep going for you. And I just wanted to give a shout out to those guys.
Yeah, gotta love the Wisconsin sports.
Yeah, for sure. We want to. I think it's good to give. Maybe it's something we'll do a little bit more at the end here. And, we're talking about our prime stuff, but it's fun to mention and let everybody know we're paying attention to what's going on.
For sure, definitely.
Good stories. All right, pal. Well done. Go eat your leftovers.
They're almost gone.
All right. Thanks for watching. Craig Coshun, James Stewart on Coshun Cast.